Okay, welcome back. If you're just joining us, my name is Brad Burke. I'm with the Rice Alliance, and we're here for the second half of the Venture Houston pitch competition. So we have 5 final startups that will present in this second session of the day. Each startup will have 5 minutes to present and 7 minutes for Q&A from our expert panelists. And we have a great group of panelists today. So joining us, you will hear from Heath Butler-Mercury Fund, Venu Shamapant from LiveOak Venture Partners, Joe Rempe from Montrose Lane, which many of you know was formerly Cottonwood Venture Partners, and Tom Ball joining us from Next Coast Ventures. So those are the questions, that's the Q&A panelists that you'll hear from during the 7 minutes of Q&A. And with that, I think we're ready to get started. So it's my pleasure to welcome, as the first of the second set of companies, Stuart Schaaf will present Orbital Traction. Stuart?
Thanks, Brad.
We can see you and you can share your screen.
All right, are we good?
We're good.
Excellent. Orbital Traction's business is making rotating systems more efficient. Orbital's products improve the efficiency and the performance of engine and electric motor-driven industrial systems, dramatically reducing energy costs and the associated carbon footprint by up to 50%. A few facts. It's estimated today that 2/3 of all primary power is wasted. GE predicts investment in industrial automation will exceed $60 trillion in the next 20 years. And 90% of all industrial systems are driven by rotating machines. The dramatic shift in industrial automation has a critical issue. 80% of all industrial equipment is simple on-off control. What does that have to do with burning rubber and flickering lights? Well, imagine a car without a throttle or a transmission that only ran at full speed or could be slowed down with your brakes. It would be extremely inefficient, dangerous, and prone to failure. Next, imagine a computer controlling and automating a light switch, controlling the amount of light by turning on and off the light switch instead of using a dimmer. It would not really achieve the goal that you wanted, nor would it make any sense. Yet today, automation efforts are confronted with the limitations of legacy on-off systems, and complete system replacement is not financially viable. Orbital has a solution. A simple actuator that can be easily retrofit into existing industrial systems and is compatible with existing and future automation solutions. Our core technology is a novel adjustable speed drive based on a ball bearing concept. It is simple and low cost to manufacture. Orbital's technology decouples the engine or the electric motor from the driven device or load, which allows for the system to be optimized. We provide significant advantages over alternative ASDs, including superior performance and higher power density. Our designs allow for simple retrofit and are well suited for harsh environments. For our customers, our system enables meaningful automation, decreases power consumption, reduces associated carbon footprint by up to 50%, all while providing improvements in performance. Our customers benefit from increased profits and a solution for corporate ESG policy mandates. The market for adjustable speed drives is over $300 billion per year. The market can be segmented into diesel engine systems in vehicles, gensets, or remote operations, industrial drives for pumping, compression, or control, and primary transmissions, including hybrid and electric vehicles. Orbital has over 50 patents worldwide, and the technology and its benefits have been independently tested, proven, and previously commercialized as a control system for an advanced oil well drilling tool. Orbital has spent the past 7 years working with the Department of Defense on optimization of military vehicles, engine systems, and drivelines, with ongoing development for advanced electrical power generation, thermal management, and hybrid vehicles. In the past 5 years, we have generated over $7 million in revenue. We have 4 near-term applications and external interest in over 20 additional applications. Orbital's beachhead market is in industrial drives, specifically pumping applications in upstream oil and gas, which allows us to have rapid revenue generation and product introduction. We have an outstanding platform and team to succeed and execute in our strategy. This is my fourth startup, having successfully exited the first three with significant returns to investors. We have a very experienced management and technical team, having previously worked in senior positions in energy, military, and industrial system sectors. And our group has commercialized new products, grown companies, and developed business segments from startup revenues to over $200 million a year. Application of our industrial drive to optimize pumping oil wells increases production between 10 and 30% and reduces energy and operating costs by up to 50%. Customer engagement has been extremely positive, with initial field testing beginning within the month and introduction of commercial wells slated for Q3 of this year. We're seeking $6.5 million in seed funding. With these funds, we become profitable, resulting in a revenue generation of over $150 million a year in 2026. We provide significant returns to new investors and expand the breadth of our applications and technology. The takeaway for the audience: Orbital has an experienced team with a solid business model, a strong defensible execution strategy, and a huge market opportunity that all will result in high returns to our investors. One additional takeaway for the investors online is the image of burning rubber and flickering lights. Don't let investment in suboptimal industrial automation solutions leave you with a bad taste and headaches. Orbital has a solution for your applications and investment. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to Houston Exponential, the Rice Alliance, and the entire Houston innovation ecosystem for continuing support of Orbital and providing us this venue today.
Thanks, Stuart. And we'll turn to the panel now.
So Stuart, one thing you didn't get to, because you only had 5 minutes, I suspect, is who do you compete with?
So right now, for mechanical solutions in existing products, the competitive solutions are hydraulic solutions and electrical solutions. So the electrical solutions include VFDs, but they're non-economical for retrofit into harsh environments. A VFD is electrical control of a motor. The mechanical solutions that are out there normally are belt-driven solutions that are not really competitive with us from a sizing and power density standpoint.
Is this a solution that is limited to the retrofit market only right now?
To the what market?
To the retrofit market?
No, actually, we're working with two major manufacturers on water pumps and fan drives to go into heavy-duty engine thermal management. The reason we're going after the retrofit market is because it's underutilized in upstream oil and gas. 80% of the costs goes into pumping fluids in some form, and we're years behind other industries in automation and optimization.
How hard is it to retrofit? How much does it cost? How much time?
So a retrofit takes on the order of a couple hours. If you look at a pumping unit like a rod pump unit or a pump jack, you slide the motor back, drop our unit between the original sheave and the motor, and then hook up the electronics for control of our device. In terms of cost, we're selling as a lease and cloud service model for remote monitoring and optimization. And the payback on that is on the order of 3 to 4 months in terms of the optimization. And the pricing point is between $500 and $750 per month.
Stuart, what are you seeing the traction and the increased adoption like on the customer side compared to two or 3 years ago with the industrial automation in general?
Yeah, so one of the things on industrial automation, and one of the things that we see is the pricing pressure, at least in upstream oil and gas with the down market and the lower oil prices, actually is a good thing for us, because we're not just providing monitoring of an existing system. The reduction of the LOE cost, the lease operating costs by 50%, and the up in production of 10 to 30% with our device provides a value that just pure monitoring and optimization can't provide.
So if you said you were going to go into field deployments in Q3?
That's correct. Actually, our field testing begins next month.
Right.
And commercial field deployments in Q3.
And so, but you also said you had $7 million of revenues. How is that like NRE or something?
Yeah, the $7 million in revenue has been primarily government contracts and a little bit of licensing and other applications. So we've worked extensively with the military over the last 5 years on producing solutions for military vehicles and their requirements on diesel engines.
Have they deployed this in their environments and actually run it long enough to know that it works and meets all the requirements they have?
So the answer is they've independently deployed and tested us. We've been on 2 military platforms. One's called the MTVR, the other the ACV, amphibious combat vehicle, and the MTVR is the medium tactical vehicle recovery, a large carrier and multi-purpose vehicle. They've proven the benefits in both of those applications. If you know anything about TRL levels, we've achieved a TRL 7 in both of those applications, and we're moving through and trying to get TRL 8. We're trying to get the funding to go through what would be qualification to get into the commercial environment with them. And the timeline that we have for that is about 5 years. And so the goal is to deploy in industrial segments that has a much shorter time to market.
How do you sell it? How chunky are the sales? You know, is it like, what's the average transaction, and how many do they buy at a time? What would a customer
Yeah,
buy?
so our goal is to go onto fields with 20 to 40 units at a time. We're profitable at a single unit, but the customer and us both end up with scaling benefits by going on multiple wells. In terms of the market, there's 600,000 existing oil wells, 375,000 operational in the United States, and 90% of those need some form of optimization because they're simple on-off control today.
In terms of the deployment, you talked about it's as simple as kind of powering it down and putting your device in the middle and turning it on. You know, these engines and motors don't look that simple to kind of install anything in terms of downtime and all of that stuff. So what's the actual cost of getting it installed, and how quickly can somebody actually install this?
Yeah, so our initial application and the installation is on industrial equipment with electrical motors. So there's two aspects of your question. So for industrial applications, it literally is if you have the axial space available to slide the motor back and drop in a new coupling, we have the ability to retrofit. On engines, our first product, which was a fan drive, was implemented on a military engine, and it was designed to be retrofittable on the engine and field deployable at service centers on the front lines. So the answer is we can get there even on engines because we're not intrusive on a diesel engine. We're actually a bolt-on on the accessories.
You guys reference a lot of different industries in your deck. Which ones are you starting out after first, and why?
I'm sorry, I lost the beginning of your question, Joe.
Yeah, you guys reference a lot of industries in your deck. Which ones are you going after first?
Yeah, our first foray and our beachhead market is in upstream oil and gas industrial pumping.
Stuart, thanks so much. Appreciate you presenting Orbital Traction today.
Well, we've done this a few times, Brad, and I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Yeah, good to see you.
All right, have a great day. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up. The next startup that'll be presenting is PathEX. And we will welcome Sinead Miller to present PathEX. Stuart, I think you are still up. If you will.
I am sorry about that.
Stop sharing your screen. There you go.
Hey, this is Sinead. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Sinead, welcome.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Should I go ahead and share my screen, Brad?
You will. You should. You'll share.
Okay, perfect. And you can hear me okay?
Yes, and we can see it too. I think you want to put it in full screen mode.
Got it. How about that?
Yep, great. All right, you're up whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share more about PathEX and what we've been working on and able to accomplish. At PathEX, our mission is to purify life through the treatment of sepsis. We have developed the first and only breakthrough device proven to capture and remove over 99% of bacteria and endotoxins directly from a patient's bloodstream, regardless of bacteria type or even drug resistance, for the treatment of sepsis. Right now, sepsis is the leading cause of death in our ICUs, and it's also associated with the highest patient treatment costs, costing the US healthcare system over $24 billion per year. So right now, if you or I were in the ICU with sepsis, we would have a 38% chance of dying. And this is really due to a number of factors. First, current antibiotics are failing us due to the rise of drug resistance and new emerging pathogens. And second, due to past failures and really high developmental costs, no new antibiotics or drugs have recently been developed to help these patients. So it's really clear that an alternative treatment option is desperately needed. At PathEX, we're helping to solve these problems with our proprietary medical device, Cyclo-PE, which has been proven to capture and remove bacteria and endotoxins directly from a patient's bloodstream with nearly 100% efficiency in a single pass. We've designed the device to be able to fit into already existing hemodialysis machines and hospital blood pumps. So Cyclo-PE is connected to a patient in the ICU, and the patient's blood, the infected blood, is continuously circulated through the PathEX device. And there we utilize a hollow helical channel and inertial forces to specifically focus the bacteria along the channel walls of the device. And there the bacteria are bound and captured using our proprietary coating that's functionalized along the walls of the channel itself. Clean blood then flows back into the patient using a really similar comparable method to hemodialysis. And we've proven our device in multiple large animal studies to have a really high capture efficiency. And also we've proven in these large animal studies that the bacterial capture capacity of our device is 3 orders of magnitude greater than the bacterial load that you'd ever see in even the most severely septic patients. And additionally, we've done large animal safety studies proving that our device has no negative effects on your healthy blood cell components. Now, with the help of Wilson Sonsini, PathEX has filed 2 non-provisional patent applications worldwide, covering both the channel design and the functionalization of the channel itself. Cyclo-PE, it is a single-use disposable cartridge that we know we can manufacture at scale for less than $50 per device. And market research and competitor pricing dictates that we'll be able to sell this device for over $4,000 per cartridge. Now, due to the capture efficiency of the device and its broad application, the device is going to reduce patient length of stay, minimize the use of ineffective antibiotics, and most importantly, it's going to offer a life-saving treatment for patients that currently have little to no alternative treatment options. Now, we do have competitors, competing technologies like Toromycin, Seraph, Cytosorb. They all use these straight column filters that use porous bead absorption methods to capture secondary effects of infection. So that would be cytokines or other inflammatory mediators. But we know that these devices, these competing devices, do not effectively treat the root cause of sepsis, which is the bacterial infection itself. And none of these devices have achieved FDA approval. They've been cited for things like ineffectiveness, clogging, poor efficiency, and prolonged treatment time. And that's really where the PathEX device excels. We do not suffer from any of these clinical issues, and our device has been designed to fit into already existing hemodialysis platforms that are manufactured by the likes of Fresenius and Baxter. My name's Sinead Miller. I'm the CEO and co-founder of PathEX and the inventor of the PathEX technology. And this is my co-founder, Alex Wiesler, and he was previously the director of finance for a startup bionutraceutical company that was purchased in 2014. He and I are supported by a leading team of experts in infectious disease, nephrology, and medical device commercialization, such as Jamie Dwyer. And Jamie is currently the director of the Vanderbilt Nephrology Clinical Trials Center, and Dana Deerdorf, who has over 20 years of experience in the medical device industry. We founded PathEX 3 years ago, and since then we've received phase 1 and phase 2 SBIR funding from the National Science Foundation for over $1 million in non-dilutive funding. We received breakthrough device designation from the FDA, and we successfully completed 2 rounds of large animal studies, the most recent of which was supported by Fresenius. Right now, we're raising $5 million, which will allow us to complete our remaining preclinical studies, and it will allow us to complete our 15-patient first-in-human safety study. Again, we're PathEX, and we believe we can change the paradigm of sepsis treatment for the better. Thank you guys for listening, and I'm more than happy to try to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thanks, Sinead. We'll turn it over to the panel.
Yeah, so this is really out of my swim lane as far as knowing anything about medical devices.
No, it's okay.
Really great presentation and
Thanks.
Cool idea and product. When do you actually start making revenue?
Yeah, so just to give you, let me go to the timeline. Can you still see my screen?
No.
No,
we
you can.
see it on your screen.
Let me show you my screen real quick, because I just want to show you this timeline to give you a little bit of an idea. So our device is a class 3 medical device, requires a PMA, meaning that in like the regulatory scheme of things, it's the most highly regulated in terms of devices. So we are planning to complete the first in human study by the end of 2022, as you can see on this timeline. We have a strategic relationship already with Fresenius, which would be a really likely candidate for acquisition. And they've expressed to us that the most probable time of acquisition would be once we start and prove out early stages efficacy in our pivotal study. So our pivotal study will start in about Q2 of 2023. And after we get, a quarter or halfway through that pivotal study in 2023, that's whenever we would expect a potential acquirer to come in, like Fresenius or Baxter, just to give you an idea of what we're thinking. However, with that said, we are operating the company like we're going to an IPO. We don't want to operate like, we're just going to be acquired. We're trying to do everything to the best of our capabilities, but that's timeline-wise what we're thinking there.
In terms of that process, once you get through the FDA approval process, is this treatment something that's similar to something that the physicians know how to do, or there are billing codes that payers know how to pay for, and all of that other stuff is in place? Or do you have to go kind of convince people of a new way of doing this?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's really helpful to allow us to kind of explain more how the device works. So our device, we know, can completely clear bacteria from the entire bloodstream of a patient within 1 hour. So you would think, that you would only use the PathEX device for 1 hour. But for us, that's not the case. On our instructions, we are requiring the use of our device for 4 hours, because that's how long a normal hemodialysis treatment occurs for. So our device is designed to plug and play and fit seamlessly in your already existing hemodialysis machines. It works the same way as a hemodialyzer. It connects to the same blood lines. It operates at the same flow rates, same pressure drops. It can even be used in series with a dialyzer. So we're choosing to use the same flow rates and same time frame of treatment, so that the ICU renal nurses, they don't need to learn anything new or anything like that. So that's very seamless. The workflow, it's plug and play and seamless. In terms of reimbursement, what has been really helpful for us is we got breakthrough device designation. So with that, we know now that our device will be reimbursed through CMS. Sepsis, is covered under a DRG code. There's 3 different DRG codes for sepsis: 870, 871, 872. And our device would fall under there, but we know it will be reimbursed now since we do have that breakthrough device designation.
No, you mentioned that the product already fits into the existing platforms.
Yeah.
Have you guys tested that already, or just from a kind of design schemas, you know that it'll fit?
No, we have to test with like the bloodlines and everything, the inlets and outlets. So there's ISO documents out there, ISO standards that for hemodialysis cartridges, for example, that give you the exact dimensions for the inlets, outlets, those lure fittings. So we have to use those bloodlines, those flow rates, and everything that will go in with our device. We did that for our animal studies, for example, to prove out everything. For our animal studies, we really try to make them as close as you will see in the clinical setting as possible, because that's what the FDA prefers. You know, they want to see as close to the clinical setting setup as you can. So that's what we've tried to do along the way, and we know it will fit and plug and play seamlessly.
Got it. And what's your biggest risk that you're managing against going forward for your next couple of milestones?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, you know, right now we're raising this Series A. Once we get through this Series A, we still need to complete one more animal study before our first in human study. And what that is a GLP safety study. We already did a non-GLP safety study proving the safety of our device. The FDA has looked at that safety study, all the data, gave us the thumbs up on it, but they have made it very clear that they want us to complete a small GLP safety study just before first in man. So that'll be kind of the next biggest milestone that we need to get through successfully and submit that data package to the FDA before jumping into the first in man study.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Any last quick question? Going once? All right. Well, Sinead, thank you very much for presenting PathEX this afternoon.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Okay, so we're up to our third company of the second session. So joining us now, there he is. Joining us now is Trevor Best. Trevor, I think we saw each other earlier today online. All right, Trevor will present Syzygy Plasmonics. If you want to share your screen and go into full screen mode. Yep. Can we hear you?
Fantastic.
You're there. Okay. We can see it and hear you. Good.
Awesome. Here we go. My name is Trevor Best, and I am the CEO of Syzygy Plasmonics. So the energy and chemicals industries form a foundation of human society. These industries make chemical products using conventional thermal catalysts that require heat from burning fossil fuel. The products they make include fertilizer, fuel, plastics, and hydrogen, to name a few. Collectively, these products generate trillions of dollars in revenue and help to support a third of global GDP. However, burning fuel to make these products is responsible for around 3.5% of global carbon emissions, and their end use drives about a fourth of all emissions. So this brings us to the problem. We have to reduce these emissions without totally messing up the global economy. This is where Syzygy comes in. We build chemical reactors that replace heat from fossil fuel with renewable electricity. For traditional reactors, not only does burning fuel create emissions, but the high temperature environment means that these reactors must be built using very expensive metal alloys. Also, the cost of the fossil fuel inputs will be impacted by carbon pricing and are projected to go up in the future. In contrast, Syzygy's photocatalytic reactors use renewable electricity to power high efficiency LEDs, which create light to drive our chemical reactions. Not only does this eliminate the emissions, but using light instead of heat allows us to build our reactor out of materials like aluminum, which is 20 times cheaper than the competition. On top of this, the input costs for renewable electricity are projected to trend strongly downward in the future. Our technology is possible because of a discovery made by Rice University's Laboratory for Nanophotonics. Their photocatalytic breakthrough involves how photons can drive chemistry at the nanoscale, and the science is highly validated. It has been published by notable academic journals such as Nature, and Syzygy has successfully completed projects from the National Science Foundation and the Department of Energy's ARPA-E program. we have already taken steps to protect our technology with extensive trade secrets on catalyst synthesis, and we have granted patents for the catalyst, as well as numerous patent applications for the reactor that uses that catalyst. What really makes all this so exciting is that we have a platform technology, meaning that we can use it to perform many different types of chemical reactions. Utilizing our platform, you can see what reactions we're able to perform today on the left. We can make hydrogen from ammonia splitting and from a proprietary process that we call double reforming. Distributed hydrogen with these two pathways is going to be our first focus when we go to market. Other reactions we've demonstrated and are progressing are things like processing carbon dioxide back into products like methanol, synthesizing ammonia, which is fertilizer, and many, many others. The TAM for all these end chemicals that we can make today exceeds $600 billion in 2030. Moving to the right, you'll see our rapid development progress. We started the company in 2018, and we had a micro reactor that was making milligrams of product at about 1% efficiency. By the end of 2019, we had a lab scale reactor that was making grams at about 30% efficiency. And finally, last year in 2020, we turned on our pilot reactor to hit kilograms and have achieved around 50% efficiency. So what happens when we keep making great progress and go even further? These charts show what happens when we take that next step and hit 70% efficiency for hydrogen. Cost projections for a typical scenario are up top. You will see our double reforming and ammonia splitting reactions are very cost competitive when compared against other methods of making hydrogen. On the bottom, you'll see an assessment of life cycle carbon emissions, which consider the whole value chain. For example, these are the numbers using solar electricity, and it takes into account the carbon intensity of things like manufacturing the solar panels, and the other feedstocks, etc. Reducing both cost and life cycle emissions like this will enable us to become a dominating force in energy. And the kind of difference that you see here with hydrogen is what we are seeing for all of those enormous markets that I mentioned earlier. We have a very seasoned management team, including my co-founder and CTO, Dr. Suman Kadiwada, and industry veterans with more than 20 years of experience, such as Robbie Padditer, our VP of Operations, and Lynn Frostman, our VP of Engineering. In addition to grants, we are supported by great investors, such as Goose Capital from right here in Houston, The Engine from MIT, and Horizons Ventures, who were early investors in Zoom, what we're talking on right now, Spotify, and Impossible Foods. Perhaps most important, we have communication channels with nearly every major energy, industrial gas, and fuel cell company out there. We have the experience, we have the expertise, we have the connections and the capital needed to land that next step and solidify Houston's position as the energy transition capital of the world. In closing, Syzygy technology represents a fundamental advancement in understanding of nanoscale physics that can be utilized to dramatically reduce cost and emissions from the energy and chemical industries. And we are doing this right here in Houston, Texas, in our lab next to NRG Stadium. We are honored to be included in such an amazing event with so many amazing Houston companies. Thank you so much for allowing us to participate. I would love to answer any questions that you have.
Terrific. Thanks, Trevor. And I'll turn it over to the panel.
Is the concept of photocatalysis catalyst used in other industries so far, or is it completely new?
So photocatalysis is a pretty old field of science. It started in the 1970s out of Japan using a material called titanium dioxide to split water. Every major academic institution on the planet studies photocatalysis. Every major world government has committed billions of dollars to funding research, and pretty much every major energy player has dabbled in it from time to time. However, no one has ever really been able to make photocatalysis go above 10% energy efficiency. So the fact that we have gone way beyond 10, we're 1 to 30 to 50, and we have a clear path to 70 is revolutionary. And we are not the only ones trying to do this, but we are the only ones succeeding.
Hey, Trevor, I remember when you had your first reactor, so great progress. Is this latest pilot reactor at scale, or talk to us a little bit about that, because I know they keep getting bigger. Where are you now, that pilot reactor, the size, and what's the risk involved in going from 50 to 70?
So we have really mastered the fundamentals for what we're doing. Now we're beyond the stage of science risk, and it is an engineering problem. So we're getting into things like heat exchange and understanding, we're using like 4 different multi-physics models to understand our reactor, like, photon ray tracing, thermal models, gas distribution models. So it's really now just like classical engineering to get us the rest of the way off the finish line. From a scale standpoint, we do need to accomplish another scale up and take it from like low kilograms to hundreds of kilograms, but we have a clear path to accomplishing that. On the efficiency side, there is also system considerations. It's not just the reactor, it's also the system around it. We have designed and are currently building our first demonstration system that we will turn on in our lab later this year. And that system, does a lot of things. It purifies the hydrogen and like I mentioned, heat exchange that helps us to accomplish the 70%.
Awesome.
Can you, I think you guys, or I think you said, or I've heard, you're more of a licensing model. Can you kind of talk about the economics of that and who the ultimate customers are, and kind of how
Fantastic.
much
So we are still deciding on our final business models. I'm just going to be open about where we're at. We have a fantastic technology and there's a lot of different ways to extract value out of it. In our industry, the value chain really has about 5 positions. You can make and sell catalyst, you can make and sell reactors, you can develop systems, you can develop projects, which is the system plus other things, or you can operate those projects and make the final product and sell it to the market. We are currently focused on a reactor and system model. We don't want to teach anyone how to use our catalyst, but the reactor and system models are both licensing models, and we're looking at margins of between 500 and 700% markup. Being able to build a reactor out of aluminum and run it on renewable electricity and eliminate emissions allows us to dramatically reduce cost and emissions at the same time. And that's how we're able to achieve such a pretty amazing markup. Following that reactor model, we should be getting millions of dollars in revenue over the next 24 months, going to tens of millions of dollars in revenue just before 2025, after 2025, breaching hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue and approaching billions of dollars in revenue by the end of the decade, with reasonable assumptions for scale up and adoption.
Hey Trevor, what's back to Tom's question on the licensing, like what's the licensing cost of a unit? And I know you guys are still thinking through it, but how do you think about a potential partner of yours paying you, how that revenue is going to come in any of those models for the reactor or the system?
So there are a few different ways to collect money from a license. And I'm going to talk about like the 2 major ways to collect money from the license. And also I'm going to talk about scope and scale. So when we look at this, you saw a lot of different reactions. So like blue hydrogen is one, green hydrogen is another, ammonia synthesis is another. We wouldn't license all of those as a bundle. We would divide it up. And so each type of reaction would be a separate license. And then there's also a question of scale. If you're Walmart and you're using hydrogen for your forklifts, that's like a small distributed system. That would be one end use. If you are a refinery and you need 100 tons of hydrogen a day, that's a much larger scale. It's a different end use. So reaction class, the scale, and then also geography like North America, Europe, et cetera. The other thing is how we extract revenue out of it. And there's really 2 ways. There is like upfront and annual recurring license fees. And those could be based off of like whenever people buy systems, or if they license for geography, an upfront fee. And we're quite interested in that. The other way that we're exploring is a royalty based off of production. So for every kilogram made, you give us 10 cents. We're exploring those. The considerations change depending on the market and where you're at. And this is one of the reasons why we're being flexible. What works for distributed hydrogen might not work for refineries, might not work for ammonia and fertilizer. And we are raising a Series B right now, and we have a lot of that dedicated to a business team to help us divide this up in the best way that the customers want.
Got it. Thank you.
Sorry if I already missed this, but in your deck you had a reference to kind of a field trial at a customer site. Have you guys already identified that customer? And if not, are you already having kind of commercial discussions, and how is all that going?
We are having a lot of commercial discussions. As I mentioned, we are looking to hire out a business team to help us work through all of that. So we are a bit hesitant to actually sign anything that has teeth at the moment. We don't want to give up, like Europe before we have worked out all the details of that, for example. But we are having a lot of commercial discussions. We're signing on non-binding MOUs. We're signing an average of about 1 a week right now. And we are currently talking with players in North America, Canada, South America, Europe, with focus on France, Spain, Germany, Scotland. We're talking to Singapore, Australia, Japan, Korea. So we actually, one of the biggest problems I have right now has nothing to do with technology. Fielding all of the inbound interest. I miss the days that I could sleep 8 hours a night. And we are keen to get our Series B done so that we can hire out that business team and deal with all the interest that we're getting.
Terrific, Trevor. Thanks again for presenting Syzygy this afternoon.
Hey, thank you very much, Brad. Great seeing you again, and y'all have a good one.
All right.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks so much. Okay, so we have 2 final companies to present this afternoon. And as a reminder to the judges, please be sure, those of you who are judges of the competition, please fill in your judging scores as we go along. And for everyone else, as a reminder, we will come back at 5 o'clock and we will announce the 6 startups that will advance to the finals tomorrow afternoon. So with that, I'm pleased to welcome Kim Raath to this afternoon to present the pitch for Topl. Kim,
Hi, everyone. Can I go ahead and share my screen? Good.
you can please share your screen and we'll hear you. If you'll put it in full screen, there you go. Okay, you're all set to go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I would like to paint a picture for you demonstrating what Topl can do through the day in the life of a coffee farmer 10 years from now. The day starts before dawn as farmers head out into their field to begin the harvest. When they get to the bushes they'll pick from today, they start by taking a few pictures that captures today's coffee cherries. Farmers access Topl's infrastructure by mobile phone, logging into their traceability application to upload information. These images and their geotagged timestamp actually form the first chapter of the story, and consumers will see. At the same time, our farmer is actually creating a self-sovereign digital identity, accumulating a production history, which can later serve as an alternative form of credit. The harvest now continues, undisrupted with technology, until the farmer arrives at the washing station with today's yield. At the washing station, an attendant weighs our farmer's bushels and scans his QR code to log their origin. Linking these transactions adds additional information and verification on the coffee's story. After scanning the QR code, the attendant records the bushel's weight, which immediately triggers a push notification to our farmer's phone. The farmer confirms both today's price and the quantity he has provided via text message, and a two-way exchange of assets is executed on the underlying Topl blockchain. A digital twin of the living wage verified coffee moves to the washing station's app, while e-money is transferred into the farmer's mobile wallet. The coffee now continues its journey past the washing station, accumulating information every step of the way. By the time it arrives in stores or cafes, a QR code is accessible to consumers that gives them access to a complete, verified, and batch-specific story of the coffee in their cup. It is this transparency and reliability, coupled with the ethical content of this story, all enabled by blockchain technology, that differentiates this story and this coffee and justifies its price premium it is commanding. Now, just by recording the production history, these farmers can leverage their digital history and build creditworthiness, unlocking barriers and accessing financing and insurance opportunities that they've never seen before, ultimately reshaping the economies of rural communities all around the world. Now, even further, let's imagine incorporating the verification of sustainable practices along the supply chain, something like agroforestry, which opens up an entirely new source of revenue for this farmer via an instrument which we call an impact credit, a digital token representing a specific impact or claim that can be sold to governments, multilateral institutions chasing these verifiable results, or can even just be used to report to the appropriate parties on the other side of the supply chain. The exchange and use of impact credits can also create more visibility and transparency into the broader ESG landscape. Topl is an ESG technology company with a purposeful blockchain that empowers businesses to prove their ethical and sustainable practices. Our technology streamlines the exchange of data on products, funds, and certification claims all into one seamless transaction. At Topl, we are building a blockchain ecosystem, not blockchain-powered platforms. Chris Danes and I founded Topl in 2017 with them having very deep blockchain experience and myself coming from an ethical mining and sustainable agriculture background growing up in South Africa. We were a founding team where sustainability met technology. Now we have a growing team of more than 15 team members from all around the world, representing 10 different countries, speaking 12 different languages, coming literally from every walk of life. We have a former BCG partner heading up our commercialization strategy to an expert coffee trader searching out our newest opportunities. We've also had some of the most amazing impact and technology investors that have recently joined the Topl mission. And our most recent mission has been to make Topl's blockchain as accessible as possible. Our BaaS and BaaS Plus, or Blockchain as a Service, offering allows users 2 clicks from the website access to Topl's blockchain. This is allowing us to power small or large tracking, tracing, and even certification platforms, from living wage certified coffee, moving from bean to brew, to ethically sourced diamonds traced from mines to marriage, to temperature validated COVID-19 test kits from test tube to test kit, and most recently, carbon neutral energy practice from wells to worms. We have seen everything from coffee chains to cold chains to carbon chains. If you are changing the world, we would like to help you prove it. Thank you.
Great, Kim, thanks so much. And now we'll turn it over to the panel.
So Kim, I mean, I think the obvious first question is, how do you guys make money? And Heath, you're not allowed to ask questions here, I don't think, are you?
So it's very.
You better be careful too, or Heath will come and get you.
I know. There's a long distance between Heath and I right now.
So it's a transaction network, right? So for the BaaS model, it is a subscription service like you would do with, a cell phone or like you have a pay-as-you-go model. So it's almost very similar to AWS or MongoDB, where you actually have an subscription to the blockchain as a service product, and then you have a transaction balance. But for the BaaS Plus, what we've done is really help bigger organizations really think through the contract. That's why I said cell phones, because so you have the little pay-as-you-go model, and then you have the unlimited everything model, where we actually have an annual recurring structure as well.
So Kim, how to see the full value of this, do you have to get everybody in the supply chain using your product so you're maintaining kind of the authenticity of that particular product?
Not necessarily. So what blockchains are really doing is isolating problems. So you could have point A recording information and then point D recording information, but point D is recording what they got from point C. And so what's happening is you're just isolating problems that might be something that, someone's reporting. So you can have secondary information that's being recorded at various points of the supply chain. So you don't need buy-in from everyone. You just want to specifically think through, like, who are these players that you want buy-in from? And specifically for us, it's not necessarily us getting buy-in from the players that are using these platforms. We are working with existing platforms that are out there actually tracking from source to sale. So like the living wage farming example I showed you is actually a real example. It's a living wage farming certification body that if you want their stamp, you have to use their software. And you have to be able to prove like each point. So they have a mobile app, they have, a text message system, like all these different things talking to that platform. But yes, you do not necessarily do you need buy-in from every player in the supply chain. You can put, secondary, third degree information on chain, but you can also show that and show that this is not primary information.
But the value is obviously highest when you have end-to-end.
Yes,
usage,
exactly.
right? Because I mean,
Yeah,
the mines to marriages thing, it's kind of like, okay, this is not a blood diamond if somebody says that at the production, but you don't know that when you're buying it at the point of sale. It's really kind of hard, and in between from mining to the retail store, whether it maintained, it's the same product or not, you don't know how to test it though, right?
So you can test the integrity of the source, right? So with diamonds specifically, you do have the rough diamond at the source. What is actually happening is a picture is being taken of the diamond as it comes out of the ground. So you see the rough diamond, that picture is recorded on the actual infrastructure itself. And then once that diamond actually gets cut into its sister stones, or 3 or 4 diamonds, that actually can trace back to the rough stone. So you can track the history and the timestamp back of who uploaded that information at what time. And with the diamonds traceability platform, you actually do get a birth certificate at the store. So you get to see everything back to the actual first picture taken and the geotag recorded the day it was mined in that specific mining location.
Where are you guys at with the product, and how long until you guys are commercial?
So we are ready commercial. We launched the first production ready version of Topl's blockchain in 2018 already. And that's when the living wage farming certification body first came up as a user. 2019, we had about 4 or 5 different types of platforms, launched different types of use cases, everything from carbon credits to diamond traceability. And 2020, we spent a lot of time. I said, like, we put an airplane in the air with a monkey on a wing and a fire extinguisher. And then we realized we needed to put that airplane, make it a little bit easier for someone to access the airplane, because we had the issue of like hand holding people to get onto the airplane. It was this private airstrip. So now with BAS, we've launched this commercial airline to allow you to actually do everything from ticketing to actually accessing the blockchain. So BAS is launching actually next week is our launch date, the blockchain as a service product. And that will actually streamline the scale much quicker. So we have about 10 to 25 companies right now in the beta pipeline for the BAS solution, and we'll launch it post Q1, the full BAS launch itself. But yes, that product is extra on the blockchain itself, has been around since 2018.
Who's the competition?
So right now, a lot of what we are seeing is kind of 2 worlds. You have the actual world of blockchains themselves, right? Because we had built a purpose-built blockchain. So you have some general purpose blockchains out there that, so it's from a technology differentiation perspective. What are some of the technology innovations that we have taken on that differentiates us from the other bigger general purpose blockchains? So that's what you see on the one side. And there's like specific, we're actually one of the only few blockchains that have really thought through tracing assets and not tracking balances like you see with a lot of the like Ethereum style blockchains. And then also thinking about the functionality of smart contracts to do these specific claims themselves. So you see the blockchain world. And then the other side, what you're seeing is the track and trace platforms that are out there. Now, they are all potential users, but until people truly understand that you need to add trust to your traceability or proof to your ESG claims, we have to, know that those are going to be, in the ecosystem, even though they're limited to the actual underlying infrastructure that they decide to be built on. So you'll see the 2 worlds of like, they call it layer 1 and layer 2 protocols.
Got it.
In average deal sizes for you is how much right now?
Right now, we have seen from the BAS side, it's smaller, right? You'd see probably something around 10K. The larger ones, you probably see about 100 plus right now. And then for the 1 to 3 year stuff, it's more, $1 million type opportunities.
Yeah, and what does the average BAS customer look like? Kind of the ideal customer profile, those 10 to 25 you said are joining the platform.
Yes. Because you can kind of think of this as we built the grid of high-speed rails, we built the plumbing electricity. So a lot of this is just plug and play. So it's platforms that can plug into the blockchain. So it's API access to the blockchain. So that it's a technology partnership. So we see a one-to-one to many approach. So it's channel partnerships. A good example is what I showed on that last slide is TrackX. TrackX is an IoT asset management supply chain company, and they have Fortune 500 companies that they work with that they do the IoT asset management for. So yes, technology partners are the ones we're seeing mostly use the BAS tool itself.
Very much. Thanks for presenting Topl this afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Okay, we have one final startup that'll be presenting this afternoon. It looks like she's here. Sarah Duggleby with Venus Aerospace. We're pleased to have you. Sarah, you will share your screen.
Sure.
Okay.
Can you guys see that?
Cannot. Here we go. It's starting.
Alrighty. There we go. Can you see it now?
We can see it and we can hear you.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, I'll get started here. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sarah Duggleby, and I am co-founder and CEO of Venus Aerospace. And we are a group of seasoned space entrepreneurs from across industry, including Virgin Orbit, SpaceX, NASA, that are taking advantage of space technology, ultimately to build a space plane. Yeah, a space plane. So given that we're in Houston, I know that a lot of you are ultimately familiar with what's happening in the space race. You've got Elon Musk trying to get to Mars. You've got Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin with a group of others working on a lunar lander. But ultimately, we feel that Earth is getting ignored. And so we're taking advantage of space technology to build a 1-hour global transport. So yeah, 1 hour, Houston to London, 1 hour, Los Angeles to Tokyo. So what we're doing with the Venus Hyperjet is you would take off from an airplane. Let's say we're here at Ellington Field. You take off from the airplane, boost up, go up to about 35,000 feet with normal jet engines, just like a plane. And then from there, we're going to turn on our rocket boosters. We'll boost up to about 150,000 feet. It'll take about 10 minutes. You'll be a little bit at the back of your seat, like a standard airplane taking off. And then once you reach 150,000 feet, you will become a glider. The rocket engines turn off. You'll be able to look up at the stars. You'll see the curvature of the Earth. And ultimately, you'll be about 3/4 of your weight. So, instant diet right there. From there, we'll be gliding and descending to the other side of the Earth. It'll take about an hour, and we'll come in close to our landing, fire our jet engines back on, enter the landing pattern with the rest of the air traffic, land, and then we can turn around and do the same thing. 1 hour from one side of the globe to the other. So how are we doing this? Ultimately, we're taking advantage of 3 distinct technologies. First is a highly efficient rocket engine. We're using a tripropellant aerospike with our own proprietary twist on it that gives us the most efficient rocket engine ever built. And with that efficiency comes the ability to have wings, jet engines, landing gear, things that you currently would not see on a rocket. We're also changing our airplane shape. So I know this doesn't look like a standard airplane, and that's because we're using what's called a wave rider technology. So we're trapping the shock underneath the airplane such that we can glide a further distance and not use as much fuel. And then finally, we're taking advantage of some leading edge cooling. When you're going Mach 15 and flying through the atmosphere, you're generating a lot of heat. And so there's changes in 3D manufacturing and 3D printing that suddenly enable us to keep our plane cooler and allow us to get that turnaround time where we can land and turn around and quickly. So in terms of market opportunity, our novel engine alone, which we've actually gotten this asked quite a bit, could ultimately take more than double the payload to space. But we know there's over 100 launch companies out there vying for satellite launch, and we don't want to be number 101. We've realized that our engine added onto this hypersonic jet suddenly opens up a market that's estimated to be up to $300 billion per year. And so the question becomes, how much would you pay to get from one side of the world to the other in an hour? Suddenly you can be that CEO and you can get from here and go take care of that negotiation face to face. You could also take that replacement part. Let's say we're here in oil and gas world. Let's say your rig is down on the other side of the world. You can get that part to the other side of the world in an hour. So in terms of status, Venus, we've fully started on the company in June of 2020. So we're still early stage, We were at Virgin Orbit where a big group of our team actually launched a rocket off the wing of an airplane. And once we finished raising our seed funding just a few weeks ago and are now currently hiring and building out our key technology. We fully expect this to be a 7 to 10 year journey. And it's going to take hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's one of the reasons we decided to go ahead and pitch and tell people, like, we know we're going to need a lot of money, and it's, we unfortunately don't have a space plan to show you today, but we're on a journey where we believe the technology is ready and we're the right team to commercialize it. So if you stop for a minute and just think about what did the plane and the train and the automobile do for society, we truly believe they changed the globe as we know it, and that a space plane will do that same thing. So thanks, and would love to answer any questions you guys might have.
All right, thanks, Sarah. And we'll turn it over to the panelists now to ask questions.
Sounds good.
Sarah, how fit does somebody have to be to take this flight if they're gonna feel like 3/4 of the weight and feels like you have to be like an astronaut to be able to take this plane?
Yeah, so the flight profile that we've been building is, it's no different than when you take off from an airport and, you sit in the back of your seat, so if you can handle that it would happen for about 10 minutes. And we're going to structure our seats such that it's the, proper position, but you don't have to be a Navy SEAL to go on this plane. Maybe if you have severe back issues or there would be reasons that we would say, hey, you might not want to take a Venus Hyperjet. But for the most part, we're designing our flight profile such that standard human could ride along.
And are you guys building, I didn't catch this, and I'm sorry if you said it, but is your vision to build your own airline, or is your vision to license this to United and American and people like that?
Yeah, our vision is to be more like the Gulfstream model. So where we're building the plane and then we'll sell it to any of the airlines. That doesn't mean that we might not spin out our own Venus Airlines, but that's way down the line. But ultimately we want to be more the Gulfstream.
Assume before you're able to pilot, like have a real plane out there, like where is that?
So we are on our platform. We're going to start with a drone. We can learn a lot by not having humans, and getting to human flight's hard. There's a lot of time and effort going into that. So we think we'll have a fully flying drone within 5 years, and then enter into our full scale and hopefully have a full plane within 7 years.
But does this require you to kind of rebuild the whole ecosystem? So it's not just today you have the Boeings of the world building the planes, there's pilot training. So on this new plane, obviously do regular pilots, can they fly this, or do they need to get extra certifications? Or is there a completely new set of everything that has to get built?
Probably. There will definitely, there's plenty of test pilots out there. We were very intimately familiar with the test pilots at Virgin Orbit. So it would probably start off with test pilots and building up but I guarantee there's a bunch of fighter pilots that are currently flying for the US Air Force that, given the chance to fly a hypersonic jet, would, hop on that opportunity. So yes, there will absolutely be room for pilot training, and there's an entire ecosystem that will grow up around this. We are taking advantage of the spaceport system. That's right now one of the reasons we decided to locate here in Houston, is because of the Houston spaceport and what that opens up. But there's a large push around the globe for the same type of infrastructure.
Yeah. And what do you, I know it's really, really early, but what do you anticipate it will cost a consumer for me to fly from Los Angeles to Japan in an hour relative to, what it costs me to fly there in 12 hours?
Yeah, so ultimately we built our entire model based on first class ticket prices. We wanted to show that the business would close at a $15,000 round trip flight, and it does. Now that doesn't mean, as we've talked to lots of people, they're like, man, I would pay double, triple, quadruple the price to not only fly at the edge of space, but also to get somewhere in an hour. But the model actually closes in terms of, plane development cost and then operational cost at a $15,000 round trip ticket.
And what do you think the environmental impact is of 12 passengers on a plane? I don't know how to even describe it. It's so interesting. But what's the environmental impact of 12 passengers?
Yeah, so we are actually building a carbon-free engine. That's one of the key pieces of our technology. Is we cannot spew a bunch of carbon into the upper levels of the atmosphere. We know that, and so the engine that we're doing is carbon-free.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how much of this is developing completely new technology that has not been built before and proven before versus pulling things that have worked in different places together to kind of create and demonstrate this capability?
Yeah, so we are taking advantage of some new technology that has been coming down the pipes and has recently been proven. But in the end, it's still just going to be a standard aerospace program. I mean, there's some programmatic risk that we have to take care of. So the first couple of years are proving out our key technology, and but it's nothing that's not been done before, thankfully. And then from there, it's just ultimately scaling up and building out, becoming a full-scale aerospace program.
Can you talk about at a high level, just kind of any government or research programs that you guys are leveraging along the way?
Absolutely. So we applied for, I think, 7 to 10 Air Force SBIRs and STTRs. We're working with, working with Air Force research labs and getting Space Act agreements set up, and working with some of the world's leading space organizations and research organizations. So, we absolutely want to take advantage of government funding and DoD funding to push this technology forward. And we've been, talking with those folks as we've been moving things along.
You talked about the 100, and you don't want to be the 101st company that's chasing Mars or a lunar landing or something. But what's the competition like for this type of travel?
Sure. So there's several other companies out there pursuing higher speed transport. So you've got, the supersonic companies like Boom, Supersonic, and Arion. There's a group called Hermeus that's looking at some scramjet Mach 5 technology. But as far as we know, we're the only ones that enable the 1 hour transport from one side of the globe to the other. But ultimately, we don't even consider those competition because we can't fly New York to London quickly. By the time you get up, you're coming back down. We need the far global transport. So there also is, SpaceX and Elon Musk have talked about using rockets to fly from one side to the other. And so that would be another potential competitor.
Sarah, I think we're out of time, but we appreciate you presenting Venus Aerospace this afternoon.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. That's a big idea. Thanks.
Thanks for being here.
No problem.
Well, that concludes all of the companies that are presenting this afternoon. And I want to say a big thanks to all 10 startups. It's very difficult and a lot of pressure to present your startup in only 5 minutes and then get peppered with questions after that. So congratulations and great job to all the 10 startups. I do want to say a big thanks to my panelists that are here. We appreciate you spending your afternoon and helping to inform us all by the questions that you asked. So thanks again to Tom at Next Coast Ventures, Venu at LiveOak Venture Partners, Joe at Montrose Lane, and Heath at Mercury Fund. Thanks to the 4 of you. And also thanks to all the judges. So the 4 of you are judges, plus we have a number of other judges. As a reminder, please complete your judging forms as quickly as you can. Make sure you hit submit so that we lock in your scores, because we will come back, and to everyone else, thanks to everyone who's watched this session and has been watching either this track or the other 2 tracks. We will come back all together at 5 o'clock and announce the 6 startups who will advance to the final round tomorrow afternoon. So we will do that at 5 o'clock. So again, thanks to the startups, thanks to the panelists, the judges, and to all of you who've been watching this afternoon. We will see you back at 5 o'clock with the results. Thanks again.